We'd love to tell you what this podcast is about, but the truth is, we don't know. The CW Pod, at home on Iowa Everywhere. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Iowa Everywhere.
Channel Seed, seedsmanship at work.
Hello, hope you guys had an awesome Independence Day, whatever you're out there doing. I have all limbs. It's amazing how many people have asked me that today. Chris, did you lose a finger? No, I'm good. Here for the CW Pod. Really excited about today's guest. I think he's a guy that you guys are going to see again. I feel like we got a lot in common, and that Sam Summers, the brains behind Hinterland, Iowa, he's my guest today. And Sam and I had coffee one time. I mean, I've known you for a while, but we never really sat down to, talk.
Right, yeah.
But we got, 30 minutes into this, and it was kind of like, oh, my God, we should do a podcast together.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you talk with somebody and you're just, shotgunning ideas back and forth, and you're like, okay, this is a lot. So
we kind of do the same thing. It's just in different industries.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, So we'll get into all that today. Want to thank our friends. We are in the Channel Seed studio here in Ankeny. Thanks to our friends at Channel Seed. I'm looking forward. I'm going to go and speak to them here in a couple weeks up at one of their golf tournaments. Love seeing the channel signs and all the crops. Saw a bunch on my way to work here today, so we appreciate their sponsorship. And, of course, Circa and Circa Sports Iowa just got all the tickets booked to be out there for week 0 for the college football season, hanging out at Circa in the world's greatest sports book. You should join me as well, or you could just download the app at Circa Sports Iowa on your smartphone device. So Sam is the brains behind Hinterland, Iowa, but you also do a lot more. You own bars. You own the barcade thing.
Yeah.
Up, down?
Yeah, so up, down.
So, were those a thing nationally, or did you come up with that idea?
No, they had started. It hadn't blown up everywhere, right?
Okay.
It was kind of a play on the old arcades, right?
Do you own the Kansas City one?
Yeah.
So I've been to that one. Yeah, I didn't know.
That's one of my favorite locations.
Because it's right in the area where during the Big 12 tournament, and I've walked over to it a handful of times.
Yeah, we're down there in Crossroads, just south of the arena.
I've been to one in Denver.
That is one up. That's not us.
That's not you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in mostly Midwest cities, Minneapolis. We moved down to the south, Nashville, Oklahoma City. So, yeah.
Do you like our NBA
That's
Jam
good.
machine
I
that
saw
we got
that when
here?
I came in. Yeah, that's a good one, man.
What would you recommend? Because I wanted to get a second one to kind of even out the room.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have space for a pinball? I think you could put a pinball in this corner.
We could do the pinball.
Yeah,
That's the go-to.
Get like a Metallica pinball or Adam's Family.
All right. Well, Sam owns Up Down in downtown Des Moines, so go and support them and check that out. But yeah, I was wondering about that because it's like a very bars certainly are not niche, but a barcade seems like. Where was the first one that you walked in and then you're like, oh man, this is a really good idea. I need to jump on this train.
So we had, I was at my bachelor party in Vegas, and as every good story starts out.
Let's go.
So
earmuffs, kids.
Downtown Vegas, they had an arcade bar that was more of like a club vibe.
Yeah.
And we thought we could do something that was a little bit more laid back, chill, play music that we play in our clubs, right? That we do. So we opened it next door to Woolies, which is, we had opened the year before.
Yeah.
And just played music that we liked and made it a little bit more chill and less aggressive. And yeah, the games really, during the week, people come and play the games, and on the weekends, it almost turns into just kind of like a prop. People around, they like to have the games around and the noise, and they're just hanging out at the bar. So,
yeah. That makes sense. The Woolies thing's interesting. Last time I was at Woolies was for the DMX concert.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah,
that was a hell of a time. And then
rest in peace.
I got invited. X invited me to his after party that night. Have you ever heard this?
No. Did you go?
God's honest truth. Yeah.
Wow.
So me and the guys I was with, we didn't know we went to a bar around Wally's afterwards. We go outside. We were heading over to Ernie's actually,
Yeah.
and DMX is just walking by, and I'm not gonna. I gotta take this opportunity.
Right.
Yo, X, and he comes over and take a picture, and he, yo, dog, after party, and and he invited us, and we went there, and it was one of the more interesting couple hours of my life.
That at Locust Tap?
No,
Okay.
some place that went on to get closed down because there was a shooting there.
Yeah. So I know what you're talking. Near Ernie's.
Yeah, right around because we were walking to Ernie's when
right.
we saw X, and he invites us to this place, and we go there, and it was really just everything I didn't want to be associated with.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this guy's music, but I really didn't want to be at this party with I just because I have two daughters.
I was gonna say it's probably a lot of girls, and
Well, and I'm just he's this old man.
Yeah.
At this point,
Right.
This is right before he died.
Mm-hmm.
He comes to Des Moines, which was great. I was it was such a fun concert.
Sounded really good.
Yeah, and he was doing all of his hits, but he would do one verse.
Yep.
And then you're all standing up and singing whatever. But it was all it's DMX. He's all gray. He's got a huge belly, and it's these 25-year-old girls. It just was really, really awkward. I didn't even stay that long.
Yeah. That's kind of the not fun part of touring, or fun for some, I suppose.
Oh
Yeah.
man, it's man, he's still trying to do this. Though.
Yeah.
That was a bummer that he because he was trying to clean up his life and stuff. It sounded like and then he just died.
Yeah. You wonder if going from not doing anything to going touring again, it takes a toll, I'm sure, right?
How does that? How do you book those? Because I want to get into Hinterland,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's a little bit of a different deal than when you're booking Woolies, right?
Yeah. So typically with Woolies, we hold a calendar, and then the agents for these artists will reach out, say they're playing through the Midwest, they want a date at Woolies, and then we'll give them an offer, and maybe they'll confirm.
Is that all you, or do you have a
So
team?
I've got people that work for me. So
yeah, I knew that,
yeah.
but does it all? Are you the only music scout, or do you have
No.
do you have people be like, hey, I think this would do well?
We have, especially with how many new bands there are, it's nice to have, some other people that listen to those specific genres. So we have a guy that does heavy music, metal, that kind of stuff. Then we have a guy, he's just younger, right? So he knows these newer artists that are coming out. The only way you can keep up on things is to either one, trust that the agents are selling you good things, or listen to it and consume it yourself. And so I've removed myself from socials. So I'm not seeing a lot of this content anymore. So I have to have people that work for me that are.
That's smart.
Yeah.
I mean, I even me having Aiden and Matt Van Winkle, and I got guys like us. We're not the spry young guys anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, even what's on TikTok now, my daughter will watch these YouTube shorts, and there'll be these songs on, and I'll be like, what is that song? And then, I've written it down. It's okay, Gail, right? These things that are getting played constantly, these new YouTube artists are just massive. I mean,
well, and then what your personal taste is
differs.
Isn't everybody else's.
No.
What's the most popular? What do you guys you book it for Woolies, this thing's going to sell out?
Yeah.
Is there a genre that is hot right now?
Honestly, kind of this suburban hip hop has had a really good run the last 10 years, right? Started with Mac Miller, Wiz Khalifa, that kind of stuff, and it's still going. Yeah, I say it leans high school, but yeah, Travis Scott, Lil Uzi Vert. I mean, there's new ones every year, and it just hasn't slowed down.
How much music do you listen to a week?
Not very much. In my car, I'm listening to a lot of Hinterland stuff right now.
Yeah.
Just because I'm trying to get in the vibe, into the mood,
Yeah.
and everything, and get myself rolling. So I listen to a lot of Zach Bryan, Tyler Childers, mostly stuff that I'm booking at Hinterland.
You got me. actually Aiden did the Zach Bryan deal.
Yeah.
They
It's
kept
good.
telling me as we're doing the reads for on two guys named Chris. Everybody kept telling me, hey, because I'm an open book. People have listened to me for years. They know what I like. And everybody kept telling me this Zach Bryan is going to be my guy.
Yeah.
And I'm locked in now.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
Oh, it's really good, and he's a super like endearing human too. So I think it's just like people can't get enough.
He seems very authentic.
Yeah. He's I remember when I saw him, he played our first Hinterland. He filled in for or not our first, but his first year of touring he played at Hinterland. He replaced Tanya Tucker. It was a year after COVID, and he had just gotten out of the military, gotten his release papers 10 days prior in San Fran, and he did Hinterland. His set, I just remember like he messed up a couple times on guitar and stuff, and he just has this like charismatic, like you're like, oh, he's one of us, you know?
Yeah.
And then like I think that's what made him so big. It's like I told his agent, because I'm pretty tight with his agent. We just talked over the years, and I'm just like, this is gonna pass all this stuff that's happening right now. This is going for Garth, right? Like this is gonna be on the Garth level, and you know, I think it's super ambitious. But I mean, knowing what he's gonna be doing next summer, you know, and going into the stadiums, I mean, that's quick. You know, that's like 3 years from clubs to stadiums. So, not to say he's the only one to do it, but yeah.
So I have so much to get to on this.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's start with Hinterland and where it all came from. So the background of this thing is you're at Waterworks, right?
That's right.
Floods?
Yeah. Yep.
And you got to move it.
Yep.
How in the hell do we get this thing to St. Charles, Iowa? And then we'll decipher how it got to the point where it is. But where did that idea come from?
Yeah. So well, backing up just a little bit, you know, we put together Hinterland, which was, I told my staff, I was like, this is just a concert with more bands, right? We're not a festival. We're all day long worth of bands, and just try to keep it, you know, we're tying everybody into this center stage. Everybody's watching stuff that's on the main stage. We're curating a lineup. They don't have to run around from stage to stage. They can just hang out. So I knew what was doing well in the market. Also happened to be what I liked, right? Like Shaky Graves, you know, Brandy Carlisle, Edward Sharp, you know. So to me, those artists were all pretty similar or adjacent, you know, like Americana type music. So we put together this lineup, put it at Waterworks 2015, and you know, it was in August, and I remember leading up to it, there was a country festival that was supposed to be out there with Eric Church. That flooded out in June, and I was, you know, getting a little nervous, but I knew it was August, and historically August is pretty dry. So that all clears up. Then we get to this point where it just starts raining the week before the festival. And fortunately, I had formulated a backup plan. I had a venue down in St. Charles that, you know, wanted us to come take a look at it. I had made contact. I was like, okay, we're going to have this as a backup. You know, let's put our proper insurances in place so that we can, if we do need to move it, that we can like do it. You know, this is our first year where, you know, so it doesn't crush us. And so we had all those things lined up, and then it just started raining and it wouldn't stop. And
in August.
And I remember up till Wednesday, which is like, it's hilarious thinking that Wednesday is when we're loading in our stage. But up till Wednesday, in my mind, we were still doing it here. It was going to dry out, you know, no one had really like, it really hadn't like come to us that this wasn't happening here. And so the bus driver pulled up with the stage, and he's like, I'm not parking my stage in that field. It's wet, you know? And he just wouldn't do it. So I was at that point, I'm like, okay, well, it's go time. Let's get this moved. So we, you know, pulled together the team, all got in a room, went over everything. You know, meanwhile, there's people just running stuff down to St. Charles. And, you know, one of the memories I have is just driving heavy machinery that I didn't know how to use out of Waterworks Park so that it wouldn't flood, right? And so we got all that out, got it all moved, you know, within 2 days. And then, you know, one of the artists, Edward Sharp, played the first day. He made some comment like, you know, I never would have known that it wasn't supposed to be here, you know? And so I was like, oh, dang, we did a really good job.
Yeah. And,
you know, looking back at what we do this year, you know, and in previous years, it's like there's just no way we could have be able to do that now if we're at this scale. So fortunately, we're in a place now that we love and we can stay there, right? So
It's just so unique.
yeah, it's my staff, like one of my staff members texted me. He was out there. He's like, man, I love being out here. You know, it's like you're out. It's close enough to Des Moines where it doesn't take too long to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just peaceful and quiet. And you know, if you camp out there, I mean, picture yourself just camping in a field. You don't hear much.
Okay, so I have read that a lot of artists really want to play this particular. You call it a festival now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was kidding myself. Like that's
it's a festival.
I mean, it's just a word, but it's a lot. It's more than a concert. Yeah.
That's really cool. Like if you sat back to kind of look at this and be like, look at what we created, and now, because what I read was that they view it as good for their brand to play Hinterland because of just everything from the venue to the uniqueness of it. That's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, it's you know, we could have only hoped for that. It's not something that you can just set out to do and then do. It just that sort of stuff just happens naturally. But it's definitely become this like, you know, tastemaker festival for these artists, right? So particularly the ones that lean more country, when they want a little bit less of like a straight up country, like, you know, honky tonk type crowd, they'll elect to want to play Hinterland, right? They'll tell their managers, we want to play this. You know, and then some of the other artists, it's like they know that we take care of them. We value like hospitality backstage. You know, it's literally just a dirt like ravine, but we've put in, you know, so many amenities and like, you know, we plywood the dirt, we put down AstroTurf on top of that, put tents, put air conditioning into those tents, and then they're like, when you that was the kind of thing that blew my mind. I was down there eating catering last year behind stage, and I was like, I know what this looks like underneath, and we're all sitting here, and it looks like we're like in this crazy house, and you know, that was like, So anyway, backstage.
But that's like you got to do that though.
Have to,
because otherwise they won't want to come. And hang out and then. But I would also imagine that's a small world, and they'll tell their friends like, "Oh, that place sucks. Don't ever play it."
Yeah, you know, I talked to friends when we started this out, agents in particular, and I was like, "What are some things I need to keep in mind when I'm doing this festival?" You know, I know how to book it, that kind of stuff. But you know, everybody said catering. Make sure catering's good. You know, if people have food to eat, that's good. Then everything else seems to be good, you know.
Just feed
one of those core needs, right?
Do you got to do the? You always hear in the olden days like the riders.
We do the riders. We shop the whole thing, right? So, but yeah, there's always funny requests or
what's the craziest one? You don't got to give me the artist. I'd like you to.
Yeah, I'll give you the artist because it's not inappropriate or anything. But you know, Snoop Dogg, he requests a new TV and a new Xbox with controllers for every show. And that's because he throws the Xbox controllers at the TV. So every show will have a new one.
This is like, that's crazy.
It's on the rider. It's like,
what about,
I hope it's not broken so I can have it.
Can it be like a cheap TV? Can we get like a
Vizio or? Yeah. At the time when we booked it, there weren't those deep discounts on TVs.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Now it's like, okay, that's like a $500 bill, right? Okay. But back then we were spending $3,000 for stuff that we just hoped he didn't destroy so we could play with, you know?
So I actually heard, I had a friend who worked at a hotel in Iowa City, and this was another DMX story.
Oh.
And basically, and this was 10 to 15 years ago, and, you know, DMX wanted, you know, however many bottles of alcohol and whatever in his room, and whatever. And he's got like this entourage. Well, the show didn't sell very well, and there were like dozens of people that had showed up for this thing, and he refused to go on stage, I guess, as the story goes. And he got pretty pissed off because they didn't do the rider right, and I guess like he just went out in Iowa City and just raised hell all night and like just made everybody's life miserable.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds 100% accurate for, You know, one thing...
My buddy was in charge of, like, hospitality at this hotel.
Yeah.
And, like, it was, like, a nightmare scenario for him.
Don't ever get in the way of the artist and their alcohol, you know? It wouldn't be the first time that we've had a show where, like, the artist won't go on stage until they have the liquor that they either was on the rider or that they requested last minute when they got there. That's what we found is like if there's alcohol in there, that's serious, right? There's certain things we don't shop, like cigarettes. It's like, yeah, I'm not trying to buy people cigarettes, but
So like, does it like what if a guy is doing the show and he's like, I need Pappy Van Winkle, or I'm not going on, like, and you just can't get it.
It depends. Like if it
what
was,
do you do?
If it was Zach Bryan, then we would figure it out, right? But if it's somebody that's sold 200 tickets, there's going to be a really difficult conversation.
Yeah.
It's you kind of like I will bend over backwards and get anything. Like if he told me he wanted to like do a sound bath in the middle of a cornfield that I mowed down, I would absolutely do that for Zach, right? But when it comes to like or like Tyler or somebody that's headlining, that's a key piece to the festival.
Yeah.
You want them to be happy. I remember, and I'll give this story because so we did Ryan Adams one year, and it was before he had this like cancellation thing, right? Like so I knew he liked arcades, like pinball in particular. So I watched this entire like hour-long pinball video, all his favorite pinball, brought in a pinball, all of them. I brought in all the ones he wanted. We set it up in the venue, pipe and drape around it, made it private for him. And then the tour manager's like, oh, that's cool. That's nice of you. He's not coming in. So
oh,
I was like,
man.
Okay. So, that he is notoriously like that, right? Other artists, like, they appreciate that, right? We've had artists where, like, maybe something wasn't perfect for them. So we've wanted, especially at Hinterland, we've wanted to, like, over deliver. So I know this guy came in last year, and his partner's going to be in town. So I was like, okay, I want to do a meal for them in the woods, catered by our caterer, who's Tim Love. He does like Austin City Limits. He owns like 10 things down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, nice restaurants. So anyway, he catered this meal for them. And so I got a list from his tour manager, like what he liked, right? Like seafood.
Yeah.
Which in Iowa is obviously challenging. But we went, got a bunch of stuff at Waterfront, made this really amazing meal for this artist that, played the campfire stage, right? But I also like to take at Hinterland. I like to take care of the smaller artists because generally speaking, the artists I'm putting on there, are going to get bigger, and so then they'll come around again, and
they're going to be
remember
Maggie
that.
Rogers in a few years.
And Maggie played before, and just, it's really important to take care. Like Zach, he played his first year he got $7,500, right, and played early in the day. Same with Tyler, Childers. They both played. All of them played early in the day, and then they come back and they headline, right? So
what I'm fascinated about is that if you look at the artists that, to your point, that you've had over the years, it's like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is, but they weren't big then,
right? Yeah.
We're in this fascinating era over the last 10, 15 years or so where. Because back in the day when we were kids, if they didn't play you on the radio, you were screwed.
Right.
Nobody was going to know who you were. And now, like, there's this, I don't know if this is accurate. You tell me if it's not, but like, because I'm one of these guys, it's like, I love country music, but I don't listen to country radio.
Sure.
I don't like country radio music. And there's almost this like, oh yeah, if you're not like a huge radio guy, like, you're going to earn this like giant form of support. But that's like the guys and gals you've booked over the years. And that's what it makes it challenging, I would say, towards the beginning, like to discover these people.
Yeah. Yeah. Country's a good one. Let's look at that from a radio standpoint. Radio is still super important for country artists. Maybe not the ones you or I listen to, but the ones that are like the Morgan Wallens and this like massive stuff, that it's still a machine. Like it's still on people's farm trucks, right? Like in the offices and whatnot. Well, the stuff that I'm booking is not played on radio, right? Like Sturgill Simpson went outside the CMAs and like, did some protest songs.
So great.
Yeah. So like there's plenty of artists that aren't on radio, but that's almost their thing too. Like it's like this like anti-Nashville, like, and that whole genre has been like, it's been pretty fun to watch how big it's gotten. Like Tyler is Tyler Childers or Zach or when I talk about going to stadiums now, that's on the level of a Morgan Wallen, maybe even bigger, and they did all that organically. And before radio was even part of the story. Yeah.
I've enjoyed the show Yellowstone has kind of promoted some of these people.
Yeah.
It's been cool.
Yellowstone has brought a lot of those, like, Cody Jinks style,
Who's the guy that plays Walker?
There's Shane Smith is one of them.
I heard of him.
I don't watch the show.
Yeah.
I know the artists when they're played.
There's a guy who's one of the Cowboys who I listen to all the time, and I can't think of his name right now. But
yeah, but and honestly, Kevin Costner too had he has a band, right? We've booked them. I booked them at People's Court. I booked them at
the
Surf Ballroom.
Ryan Bingham. That's
Ryan Bingham.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah, he's like one of the. I mean, not a main character, but he's in like every episode.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going after him for next year. He's gone, like, his trajectory has changed over the last few years, like, right, like just kind of steady grow, and then since Yellowstone, that's a great example. He's just gone, like, exponential, right? And so someone like him, previous years it'd be like earlier in the day, midday, and now we're looking at him for main support. He's great. We did him at Hoyt.
Really good stuff.
He's been an actor for a while. He was in some other movie, a while back. But
have you ever worked with? And then I want to get to more of the business stuff here.
Yeah.
But one of my all-time favorite artists, probably top 3, is Jamie Johnson.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy that screams that
he's great. Yeah.
He might be a little too honky tonk for Hinterland, but but he's a guy to me, like, where he just never kind of fit the Nashville mold, but he's got more talent than 5 of those guys out there combined.
100%. Yeah, we've done a Jamie show. We did it last year, 2 years ago with Whiskey Myers.
I went to the Hoyt Sherman one.
Yeah, this one was at Waterworks. It was like the year after COVID, 2021.
Got it.
And yeah, those fans like to drink. That was a big one. So. I
don't know if Hoyt Sherman's ever sold as much beer as it did the night that I was at Jamie Johnson.
Yeah, they are good at that. They're very good at drinking.
Okay, so we'll get into more of this year's, but this festival thing to me has it's got this like mainstream like flashlight on it now because of these documentaries that have come out.
Yeah.
So Firefest is the Ja Rule thing. Aiden here's so young. God's honest quote he gave to me, because we were talking about this before you came in, and he goes, "Was the Ja Rule was he ever even popular? Only thing I know him about is Firefest." Like, yeah, he was pretty big there for a while.
Absolutely. I mean, he played the Drake Relays. I went to an after party at Val Air with Ja Rule that he showed up for like one song. Yeah, he was pretty big.
I got window shot out leaving his concert in Omaha.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what happened, but something me and my buddy were doing in his old Monte Carlo. We got the back of his window shot out.
My.
We didn't even do anything. Like, we weren't in a fight or anything. It's just a bad situation. No. So this Firefest thing becomes viral.
Yeah.
I believe that was even during the pandemic or around there. So everybody's at home watching these things, talking about them. And then HBO comes out with the Woodstock 9. There were 2 docs on Woodstock 99 too. So we have like all these festival documentaries coming out, and it shows like the absolute worst case scenario. Like,
oh yeah,
Firefest was worst case scenario.
It was, yeah, it was. There's parts of things that happen in there. You're like, I could see how that could happen. And then there's parts where like, oh, this guy's a con artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the whole thing with the fire. And I've seen that one. I haven't watched the Woodstock 99 one. I just haven't seen it yet. But I know what happens.
Will you watch it and then come back in
absolutely.
and we'll do a review?
Yeah.
And we'll talk, because I bet there's a lot of people who would love a breakdown on that one. Because it's right in the era when we were. How old are you?
I am 40 this year.
Okay, I'm 39, so we're the exact same age. Yeah. And that's like the era where we were all in high school, and like, you got Kid Rock, DMX, like what a powder keg. You got Papa Roach, you got Chili Peppers, it was just crazy.
All the big stuff. And like some of that's like pretty heavy music.
Yeah.
And
it got them all charged up.
Yeah, it got very chaotic. I know enough about what happened there to, kind of speak to it. But I mean, that was like when, I don't know if you remember this festival that happened here called Dot Fest.
No,
was
I
in
don't
the
remember
Ankeny,
that.
It was in the Ankeny airfields, and I think it was '99. It was like Bloodhound Gang, The Urge. Anyways, a bunch of bands like that. But you know, I think the issue with that one is like a lot of those are just heavy fans, and it was like, I don't know, that was
Alcohol,
definitely
drugs.
alcohol, and just a lot of people. You know, I do kind of enjoy watching that stuff, but it's like it's definitely can get stressful because you're like
That's what I'm saying.
you watch it, you're like that could happen.
I
That could
can't.
happen.
I can't listen to or watch a game
Yeah.
without critiquing the play-by-play guy in my head.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. Like, would your anxiety
Yeah.
just go through the
It
roof
does,
watching
yeah.
these things?
And honestly, I don't watch like music documentaries either for some reason. I don't know what that is, but they're just not like I don't know. It's not interesting for me to watch it.
Well, is it because you live it and you
I
just
think
want
it's
to
because
take
I
a
live
break?
it, and I don't. Yeah. So like, I'd rather go watch another industry. I think we've talked about that. Like, I like sports, right? Like because
Well,
it's
that's
not
why
my
we're
work.
good because
Yeah.
I can kind of inside you on sports,
Right.
and then I could pick your brain on
That's
this
right.
stuff. Yeah.
You know, one of the interesting things that had happened, you know, the Travis Scott thing. You know, rewind. I think that was like 2 years ago. His Astro World Festival down in Houston, right, where those kids got crushed. It was like and it was basically just from the weight of other people's body moving, and like, you know, he got a lot of criticism for that. And I mean, he got sued and all that. And when I just look at that, I'm like, you know, part of this is just like, this is his music, you know, it's very aggressive. Like he, you know, like he tells people like, this is like, you'll go crazy. Right. And then I remembered back to when we did Travis Scott and, you know, the precautions they took, like they came into the venue, they said that barricade right there is not good enough. Right. It's a barricade we'd used for A Day to Remember, all these heavy shows. And they're like, no, we know the crowd. This will be the craziest crowd we ever have. They also like, they didn't play music leading up to him because they didn't want people to get too excited. And so like they're, you know, to me, I was like, they understand what's happening with their fans. And to a certain extent, like some of this has to be on the fans a little bit, right? Like certainly not the people that died in it, but like people were pushing, right? Like this is just like what happens at concerts, and it's not new, you know, like this has happened at rock concerts.
Feels like your vibe is way more chill. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of envision your people, everybody's holding hands and, you know,
At Hinterland, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like, you know, the police tell us like we've done 2 different festivals, right? We've done a big country festival and then we do Hinterland. And the police that work our festival, they're like, we like working Hinterland. Everybody just wants to hang out.
it's got a Coachella vibe to it, but
Yeah.
it's in the country.
Yeah. There's no fights, you know, like, you know,
Is it the people or is it the acts you're booking?
mostly, I think it's a little bit of both, right? Like people don't go too crazy on alcohol. One, they're certainly drinking, but it's like, you know, it's a long day. People pace themselves. It's hot. It's August, you know?
I'm getting old.
Yeah,
Like I totally respect that now.
absolutely.
10 years ago, I'd have been like, no, man,
I know.
let's have 10 down before noon. And
I
it's
know.
not, now it's like, no.
Now I'm like
morons.
switching NAs, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll do NA regular, NA
Yeah.
regular, and just be thinking about how my next day feels.
Exactly. You just can't
So,
handle it like
yeah.
you did.
It's and so like it's a little bit of that. People are calm. You know, there's probably some extracurriculars that are happening that, you know,
Can't control.
chilling people out, you know?
But like also the vibe down there, like you just look around and it's just peaceful.
yeah.
There's not
absolutely.
sirens, there's not buildings, it's just crickets.
Yep.
There's lightning bugs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's totally it too. And then like, you know, people want to be there. Staff, they enjoy it. You know, that's a big part of it. Your first entry, you know, when you come into a festival, the first person you're going to see is a staff member. So if they're having a good time and they're not chaotic, right, then it kind of sets the tone.
So when you said you're working on Bingham, which would be, I'm
Yeah.
a huge Bingham fan. When do you hope to have, like on a given year, the next year's festival done?
You know, it's gotten earlier for me. I will say that like this year's been an interesting one because normally, well, I have 3 headline offers in right now, and then I got some like early day stuff. Normally, I'd be pushing a little bit more. I'm not because over the last year or 2 years, there's been a lot of new festivals, which has basically raised the price for a lot of these artists. And so I've just been kind of chilling and waiting to see what happens with some of these other festivals because it's a very risky endeavor doing a festival. So some of those festivals naturally will not happen, which means they won't be able to put offers in for next year.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for a little bit of that to happen right now, where last year my goal was to go early and try to get these offers in before, all the other festivals went in.
Feels like the music industry too. I mean, when we were kids, people were buying tapes and CDs like crazy. Then for a while, everybody was just stealing it.
Yeah.
And then now we've got, you've got Spotify, you've got Apple Music, you've got all these different things. Is the artist more reliant on touring now?
Yeah.
It feels like they would be. And like, how does that? Because I would think that they're touring more, so they would charge less.
Yeah.
Just a supply and demand thing. But from what I'm hearing, it may be different.
Yeah, so it's kind of complex here. The festivals often preclude them from being able to do a full tour because they're flying around from place to place. So naturally, agents tend to they make commission, right? An agent makes commission, so they like the payday on that festival. The commission on the festivals, typically, you're paying an artist like 4 or 5 times what they'd get on a club show. What they don't like is that it knocks out the rest of the week. So they can't book like a tour of 5 dates or whatever. They got to jump from, Newport Folk Festival over to Hinterland. And then where are you going to play around these areas, because festivals, like when I'm paying 5 times what an artist is worth, I'm asking for some exclusions when it comes to markets, right? Like I'll say, you're not going to play Council Bluffs, you're not going to play Iowa City because we're going to play Des Moines, right? For this festival. That gets difficult and challenging for artists or for agents because, then it's tough to route, they have to look at other traffic. And so, yes, I think artists like festivals. One, back to that tastemaker thing, they're getting put in the right places, when the festival lineup comes out. But 2, it's like, they feel like a rock star more than they ever do backstage. Touring to me doesn't seem very glamorous. Like I understand they all have these $1 million to $2 million buses that they're all going around in, but generally speaking, it's 8 people crammed into one of those in bunks, and you're sleeping in like a kennel. It's like going from market to market, and then also like super dangerous. These things, like if they crash, yeah. So
unless you're DMX,
yeah. Right, and you can fly from place to place, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work to tour. So, I think that's why artists like it. They come in and stay at a hotel, and yeah.
So when my wife and I we go to the Lake of the Ozarks a lot. The one that we always have the 90s on 9 on. Mm-hmm. Is that like it? Because what you're noticing in movies and even TV shows is that all these 90s things are coming back.
It's very fun. Yeah, that's absolutely what's happening.
Because they want us to, hey, Super Mario Brothers. Come on, kids. I used to do this when I... And so she loves Matchbox 20.
Yeah.
It's like her band. Is that a thing now? Like where you're trying to engage the 90s audience? Because it feels like a lot, like Boyz II Men had a big tour. I'm talking more for like Woolies and stuff like that now. Do you think that's going to be a thing?
I mean, absolutely. Those bands, Third Eye Blind, all those bands are, definitely... They're the new 80s band, right?
God,
and I think it's
that's a scary way to put it.
Knowing like I've only been a part of really like 3 different decades. I mean, I was born in the 80s, but I wasn't, other than King Griffey, I wasn't really participating, So like
backwards hat, man.
That's right, the kid. But then I would say like the 90s were probably the happiest decade, for people, or at least for me, it's like you're and so
it's because we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
We didn't know any better.
Yep.
We just thought
you're playing, you're running,
Everybody watched, the same shows.
Yep.
And then, did you see Saved by the Bell on Saturday? Like,
Home Improvement.
Yeah. Slater's going to Iowa.
Yeah.
You couldn't just go and get on Messenger, and we didn't really have you could tell if somebody was rich and somebody was poor, but it wasn't nearly as obvious.
That's right.
Because we all just kind of like existed together, and now, you can connect with anybody. And
well, yeah, and I think it's like, things got serious in the early 2000s, and 90s were pretty much just like, let's have fun, right? Outside of like some certain genres in certain cities that may have been like influenced by like drug culture, right? Like I'm thinking like grunge, right? But like generally speaking, all the music is really fun. And so I think it's like,
Oh, you got to watch the Woodstock
yeah,
on Limp Bizkit.
yeah.
It'll change your mind on that in a hurry.
I should probably watch it. It pops up. Like my algorithm thinks I should watch it. So, but
I
yeah,
get it though. Like it, yeah. Like
the culture though of the 90s, like we're borrowing from that a lot, as we like do branding and merchandise. And I was just in Japan last week, and it's like that's how everybody's dressing too. Like this like oversized t-shirt, big pants, and
the like acid wash jeans are
yeah,
coming back.
yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's
Well, you're doing that with the barcades.
yeah. Well, yeah,
I mean-
80s, 90s. Yeah, I mean, we've got, a lot of 90s games too.
Yeah.
Nostalgia is pretty powerful for people. And, I think that's why Up Down works so great.
Yeah, because you go in there and like there's really not a lot of people on cell phones and stuff
No.
either.
No, we play like, old WWE or,
Yeah.
American Gladiators or whatever up on the TVs. And
Yeah.
a lot of our stuff is just, hodgepodge, like stuff all over that, based on the area we're in, we'll have, some cool murals.
So if I'm correct, you recently purchased the Valor Ballroom
Yep.
as well. So what's our vision for that? I went to a Nelly concert there once.
Nelly. Oh,
It was
man.
really depressing.
Yeah. I remember when that happened. I didn't go. Was that he played
That
there
was like
twice.
4 or 5 years ago.
Okay,
I wanna say.
the most recent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna be the layout is the same. The issue with that place is when it was built cheap, and then it wasn't upkept. So we're fixing everything, and then we're also doing stuff that should have been done when it was built, back in the 30s, right? And then also adding some safety and modern touches. I mean, the place didn't have a central alarm system. It didn't have for fire safety. So all these things just had to be done.
Yeah.
And so knocking some of those things out, working on accessibility, production was a big one for me, making sure that any band could play on the stage. So we made the stage area a lot taller. And then it was basically just a tin shed. So we added density on both sides of the roof to make sure the sound wasn't escaping into the neighborhoods. That was a big concern when we opened, when we bought it, was just taking care of it. The booking stuff's easy. Like we'll just get that. We'll make it busy.
That what type of artist? I mean, how do you differentiate that from Woolies?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it to a point,
Yep.
but I could also see some of those people that I've gone to at Woolies be like, oh, that'd be a decent venue. for
Right.
them."
Yeah. It's like we're looking at stuff that comes out of Woolies, like gets too big for Woolies, or stuff that's on its way to the arenas.
Got it. Okay.
And then also on the way back down, some artists will play arenas and then they won't be able to stay in arenas, so they'll want to go play a club like that.
Well, I love what you're doing because obviously what we're doing here is locally owned.
Yeah.
I don't think all corporations are the devil. It's not what I'm trying to do, but I also realize that in this industry in our city, we need local people pulling strings.
Absolutely.
Because especially I would think I would guess in the concert business, we are a very engaged community.
Right.
Being Des Moines, but still from a macro standpoint, if you're headquartered in Manhattan, we're still pretty small.
Absolutely.
So you've got to have that local pull.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're really tugging at the right strings from the music standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can use it as a currency too, right? Like the agents, they want to play with the small guy, right? Sometimes like that works. That narrative can really help us land shows that we wouldn't normally get, right? An example would be this Jack White tour that went out was a Live Nation tour, which means it played all Live Nation rooms except maybe 2. Valor was one of it, right? So certain artists also recognize that these are the rooms that we want to play in. They want to play in the right rooms, and so we own the right room now, and that'll make it a lot easier for us to book.
So I'm fascinated by your entrepreneurial spirit as well, because that's kind of the same thing that I have flowing within
Sure.
my veins, which is why I'm not just I could have just been a sports writer, which I really enjoyed doing, but it was also I always craved doing more.
Right.
What can we build today
Yeah.
for tomorrow? And you're doing that in music. So I kind of started, Sam, like I started doing internet stuff in 2004 when the internet was just a baby, but I never really wanted to write for a newspaper.
Yeah.
Like it never interested me. And I was reading something the Iowa State Alumni Association did with you, that you were starting to like sell for, you were like booking shows for like the M Shop at Iowa State at a young age. Like when did you kind
Yeah.
of feel like, oh, this is what I was meant to do?
Yeah, yeah. I think, well, like when we're talking entrepreneurialism, like that we probably both learned like when we were in our like teens, right? Like when we're like trying to
Williams
mow
Lawn Service.
Yeah, exactly. I mowed lawns and like, you know, I mean, my dad would take me around in his truck and, you know, I used to go gather golf balls and sell those to, you know, on the tees. But like when I realized that this could be a possible profession, I think was like, you know, I started doing it at the end of high school. I realized that like I could put together a bunch of bands from my high school that were slightly different, and then they would all bring different crowds, and I can sell more tickets, right? So like I got a taste of it then. We did like 330 people at the Botanical Center in a room that was, you know, I don't know. But like that was most of my class. And so that was like when I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then I did some like real concerts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the first ones I did was a band I liked. I got a compilation for Fall Out Boy. It was them and Less Than Jake, like a split CD. And I reached out to the bass player Pete and then booked a show in Des Moines at Vaudeville Muse in 2003. So you know, I started going to school in 2002 and graduated in 06. I think I switched a million times, right? Like I went in for electrical engineering and came out marketing.
That sounds boring.
I know. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. Like, you know, the only reason I liked it was because I was going to I was going to like garage sales and pawn shops and buying electronics and then broken ones and then trying to fix them and then flip them, right? So I was like, okay,
So that's an
I'll
entrepreneurial.
go to school for this, and then we'll, you know, and then we'll, anyway, there's a lot of math, right? Like, and so it didn't work out. Switched to marketing, you know, did like some pre-law stuff, and then I did a Fall Out Boy show in 2005 at Val Air and sold out. You know, I made like I don't know, like $10,000 on it, and
Which you're living like a king.
oh yeah, yeah, between
$10,000 in college.
yeah, absolutely. I'd also found poker at the same time, so it was like things were going really well.
Oh God, the online poker craze.
It was when you could actually make money online, and
Yeah.
so like, it was.
The
It was
old
a really,
like Bodog.
I was on Ultimate Bet,
Oh,
the one
okay.
where they started looking at your hole cards. Yeah,
God, I'd sit there on Bodog like in the middle of class, playing blackjack and stuff,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's so stupid. Like, what are you paying to go to college for if
I
you're not
know.
even paying it? You're sitting there playing poker, losing money.
I know. It was yeah, that was like my like 2005, 2006. I went and so I was just booking like maybe 20 shows a year. Went and got a job at let's see where I got a job. I got a job at the casino. Naturally, 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. dealing blackjack, and then I would go do my concerts during the day, like work, and I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I gotta let this go. And I think that's like when people ask me how to start a business, that's what I tell them: go find 2 jobs and then quit one. You know, so
Did you want to ever like be a musician?
no,
You just wanted to do this side of it. That's
Yeah.
fascinating.
I have no patience, you know, and just watching like my wife plays guitar, so like watching her practice and stuff is just I cannot, you know, like it's so much work. You
Oh
know?
yeah.
And then I'm also a fairly like private person, right? So like I wouldn't, the idea of being on stage is mortifying, you know. So
Yeah, you just want to put the people on
Yeah.
stage, make them look good, and
Yeah,
do the
absolutely.
business side of it.
yep, and that's, you know, and I work with like agents quite a bit, managers quite a bit, and then my staff is probably my most
Well,
direct.
You're a likable guy. Like
Yeah.
I feel like
I hope so.
I don't know, and I don't know your industry,
Yeah.
but I would guess that a lot of guys in your spots are kind of jerks
Yeah, there's definitely a time you have to turn it on, you know.
because you're gonna get pushed around.
Exactly. You got to be firm. There's certainly times where I have crossed that line, you know, and maybe burned a bridge, right? But you know, that's just being human and, you know, learning.
Do you ever? I think it takes a special person to do what you're talking about with these artists to be like, yeah, I'll do anything for this guy. And I understand it's business.
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point with some athletes, not really like college athletes, more coaches, where at some point I'm just like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not kissing up to you like everybody else. Where
Yeah.
when it's a bad, I know it's a bad business decision, but it's also like, okay, Sturgill Simpson, he's going to sell it, but he's still just a human.
100%.
You know, he's just a
Yeah.
human being. If he were sitting here with us right now,
Yep.
you know, he bleeds just like we
I
do.
know.
He has
Yeah.
emotion. Like, how do you juggle that?
Yeah, it's there are times where you just got to be like, no, we're not doing that guy's shows. I don't care, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if he sells tickets. He's a jerk. He yelled at my staff, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
That happens occasionally. You know, usually I'm just like, I can move on quick. So if I have some sort of issue with an artist, that's very rare. Artists are typically not part of the picture when it comes to like these conversations. They're
It's the
shielded. Yeah. But yeah, there's been times where it's just like, I'll tell my staff, like, we're not working on their shows right now. You know, like this is,
Is there like a certain, clearly don't name names,
Yeah.
but it's just like, we're not working with that agent anymore.
yeah, typically it's like someone who doesn't leave any money for anyone else but themselves,
Yeah.
you know? And
You got to make everybody whole for the industry to be healthy.
yeah. And you know, so there's an agency out there that understands every part of every part of the business. They've been on every part of it and they want all of it, right? Now, the bigger your artist gets, the more you can demand, right? Like there's artists out there, you know, this is public information. So like Jimmy Buffett or whatever, right? Like he's probably making 110% of the gross, right? Because they know that his fans are going to come in, they're going to sell every beer in the arena, they're going to sell every beer outside the arena, and then they'll make money. So like when you're cutting deals, and I tell my staff all the time, it's like a deal for this person is going to be way different than a deal for this person, right? Like I get it that normally we want to make money on every dollar, but like when it comes to, you know, this artist, like the stakes are so much higher, right? Like this is no risk to us, right? So like we can shave it and make just a little bit, right? And so that happens, and you know, it just depends. I'd say like personalities rarely would be a reason for me not to work with somebody. It's mostly just because like it doesn't work from a business standpoint. I can usually get over personalities pretty easily.
I feel like in this state, specifically in this market, like
Yeah.
I've seen media guys come through here who are East Coast and they treat everybody like East
Yeah.
Coast, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
If it's a coach, if it's a talk radio, like you kind of have to be Iowan.
Yeah.
Like not literally, but people around here, like you said, protecting your staff and stuff like
Right.
that. Like there's a certain level of decorum that you got to have in this market.
Yep. And I mean, you know, that's important to stand up for your staff, right? And in certain moments, and you know, that helps build good businesses as well. You know, I think one interesting thing, and I'd be curious on your perspective, but when you know, certain artists, right, that, you know, I used to be a little bit closer with artists and, you know, try to be friendly and, you know, meet them and whatnot. And I don't do that anymore. And I'm wondering, like, you know, I've reflected on that a little bit of why I am the way I am. And I think it's because like early on I would, when I would become, I'd become friends with an artist that would get really big. And then it was like, boom, gone, no contact, right? No longer connecting with the people from before. And to me, like, you know, one, that hurt. And then two is like, you know, I'm not going to waste my time with it. I have friends here. Like, this is
Totally agree.
Yeah, this is just me. I'm just going to be friends with my friends. And then these are business relationships. And so, you know, I'd be curious, like, I'm sure that happens occasionally.
Oh yeah. The hard, when I was younger,
Yeah.
big time, because I didn't have a family,
Yeah,
young, you're oftentimes at the same events
right.
with coaches mainly, you know, not really never the players, especially back then because players couldn't get paid for anything. They couldn't be at any of these things.
Sure.
Certainly different now. I have way more interaction with players now than I ever did because of the NIL thing.
Yep.
But yeah, you would go out and have a few beers afterwards, and then all of a sudden this guy is the head coach here, and and it's like cut
Yeah.
off. And like, you know, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of the ones that are like true friendships you stay in touch with. I mean, a guy like Greg McDermott's an example. Like
Sure.
he It's funny. He's texted me or called me on my birthday every year.
That's
Since
awesome.
my birthday was last week, and like I always know, like he always reaches out to me, and like he's just a really good guy like that. But yeah, it's really no different. Like there's good people in the industry and there's bad, and you can generally tell. Like Gene Chiswick was a guy who the first time I met him, I knew that like, this isn't going to be good.
Yep.
Like this isn't gonna. And I didn't ever have like a adversarial relationship with him. I knew it wasn't going to be good though.
Yeah.
You could just tell this guy doesn't give a crap about me or what I do, and that's fine. This is clearly transactional
Right.
on both sides.
Yeah.
He wasn't a bad guy.
Sure.
It was very different than Dan McCarney.
Yeah.
Where Dan McCarney knew your mom's name, he knew your dog's birthday. Like
Right.
it's just Dan.
I feel like that's like a very Iowa thing, like where, we care about people and try to keep those like relationships up and stuff. And I mean, I get, some people just get so big. It's like their world is a bubble now.
I just hate that. That's my hardest part.
Yeah.
The older I get, it's just like, you've got to have people to tell you no.
Yeah.
That you can't, nobody's right all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And these coaches oftentimes, like they get so powerful.
Oh yeah.
In these athletic departments that they're never told no.
Right. I mean,
and then you watch them, like you watch who they were the first year, and then you watch who they are in year 10, but you also see how these corruptions happen within these athletic departments, like how an Art Briles deal at Baylor with these sexual assaults could. Yeah, I could see how in a town like Waco, like that the cops would be involved in like this cover up. Like I totally understand it.
No one has stopped that person and told them like, hey, no.
And they've been told, you're a god because you took us to the whatever bowl game or whatever. And like, and everywhere these people go, they're constantly being asked for selfies. They're constantly in demand. And they start to just buy into the hype, and eventually you're just too far gone. And then when they don't win, in my world, then it's always there's a reason why, and it's never, hey, I just didn't coach the team very well or recruiting slipped. And I would imagine a lot of these artists, it's like they're not selling tickets now.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, and that's when they turn into a problem. I mean, I think like I don't know, so many of the artists are so insulated, right? Like. One, because of their personalities, they can't be part of these conversations, when it comes to like business or, anything that would be like, a difficult conversation. So I think they just kind of keep them out and act like everything's, all good. I mean, I'm sure, that's what happened. If we're thinking about like Travis Scott, when that was all going down, I'm sure like he doesn't even know what's going on stage.
Yeah.
Like he's like, they're not going to bring that to him. And so that part is interesting too. They're just, completely insulated from reality.
Insulated's perfect, especially in college football. Like you see it a lot, but I truly believe that these are good people that are in any of these people that we're talking about, if it's in your world or mine, that are in these super unnatural positions.
Yeah.
The most unnatural communication you'll ever find is a press conference. Guy just got his heart ripped out on the field.
Oh my gosh.
Hey coach, that was a terrible decision to punt. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
And then like now it's 10 times worse because there's cell phones going.
Yeah.
In the second after a coach has a bad moment on a press conference, we tweet it out.
Right.
We also are putting snippets out. So a guy could talk for 3 minutes giving a really great answer, but one reporter will choose to post 2 sentences. And the audience also doesn't get the perspective of how the question was asked. Was it asked in a positive verbal tone? Was it asked snarky? Right. Like it. So I am also very sympathetic to the coaches that I cover because it's not natural. Like
Right. Well,
we're not wired as humans to do this.
Right. Especially if you go in, like you watch one of like these NFL pressers or something like post game where the team lost or something. And it's like, they're already beyond triggered and you're like, now you're just poking and to get reactions. So it's just like, it's to like, get these big like reactions that they can talk about. Yeah, it's always, that part seems very caged animal to me.
Yeah.
Like they're just poking sticks and
I don't like it.
yeah. Or Aaron, I mean, I like notoriously just watching like Aaron Rodgers things. He doesn't want to be there, like, and they're just asking him all these questions, and like
You're
he
just
like wants to
forcing him.
kill whoever is asking him the question.
The most natural way to do it that I've stumbled upon in my time is locker room access,
Yeah,
which gets really tricky with college kids.
yeah,
But when they do it in the postseason, it's so much more natural.
yeah,
As opposed to when we put them up on a pedestal and then you have all the minions literally down below them.
right.
They're at their pulpit.
Yep.
And then here we are. And there's 20 of us, there's one of them, and it feels like we are attacking them.
Yeah,
Where in a locker room setting, you can sit down next to the player, you can have a conversation, they give you better access. That's the way I always thought.
absolutely.
I think press conferences are just very dated.
Right. Well, and I'll just reading sports like Twitter, right? You'll see the comments where people are like, "Why didn't you ask him this? Why didn't you ask him that?"
That's
It's
the
like,
worst.
that's
Because-
why. So
Yeah, and like in my defense there, it's like there's a lot of times it's like, yeah, I get why the fan would want that.
right, yeah,
But you're also the same fan that wants access down the road, and you can't just be an asshole all the time just because your readers are emotional about a game.
correct, yeah, yep, absolutely,
It's hard.
yeah,
It's really, really hard. And it's the whole thing is just, I don't know what the right way to do it is now. Like you try your best every single day.
yeah,
But I was thinking about that when you're talking about these like writers and stuff. And it's just like, man, I don't know if I could do that.
yeah.
I don't know if I could.
There's certain ones. It's like, yeah, you'll see things. I mean, yeah, we don't shop every writer, right? Like there's certain things that you're an opening act on a 5-band bill and the show's doing 200 people. Like, go through your headliner, come back with a reasonable writer.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's easy. It's just like point like, hey, this budget here is for the headliner, and they need to distribute it how they'd like to. It's $200. So, but yeah, there's been some funny ones. I mean, you get like, yeah, cowboy hats. There's certainly ones where you're like, is this real? But it doesn't cost
The
much to
Snoop
go.
one's crazy.
Yeah,
I don't even understand why, like, who cares if the TV's new?
right.
Why does that matter? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like, why? And
And when the show's doing well, though, it's like you're gonna pay for it because it's his money, right? Like because the way these deals are structured is they get a percentage
Yeah.
of whatever money's left over. So it's mostly all their money paying for it. So it's like if you want to spend your money on that, absolutely.
And so does he just leave the Xbox when he's done?
I don't remember what happened at that show.
Because like my thing is like, okay, if Snoop's like really into this game,
yeah,
let's say he's playing Grand Theft Auto.
he
Or-
actually
or
had an
Madden.
advanced Madden copy.
Okay, Madden. Okay,
Yeah.
like, and you're playing your franchise mode. Wouldn't you just bring your own? Like,
Right.
you got a guy. Like,
If you like
wouldn't
to
your
play, maybe your favorite is the fresh out of the box controller.
okay? But like, wouldn't you just want to like be able to pick up where you left off?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you can do that now at the kids. You can just sign in.
You couldn't
yeah.
then in 2011.
Yeah,
Another
you-
funny thing with Snoop was, we rented him 20 rooms, I believe is, a hotel downtown. The entire top floor, they have a no smoking policy at this hotel.
This is a problem.
Yeah, and so
Snoop Dogg.
they they want a deposit. They get what's going to happen. So they want a deposit for every room. So his manager calls and they're like, okay, here's this. He will smoke in all of. They'll all be smoked in. So make sure it's the right amount. So he just paid $250 for each room. And smoked in all of them. So that's the kind of money that gets wasted on tour.
To be Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Last thing for me is, so we're looking forward to this year's festival. We've been promoting it for a month here on Iowa Everywhere. Do you have like a 10-year, like where you want this to be, or are we already there? What's the future of the music scene, I guess, everything that you're involved in?
Yeah. When it comes to Hinterland, I think it's like just doing, usually I start to get clarity before the other festival plays. And like I said, I've got offers in for headliners next year, and I think it would go as long as I had clarity, on like what I was going to do the next year. Because I'm not going to do it just to do it. It is really stressful. but it's worth it right now. So, I'd figure this keeps going forever right now in my mind. And, I think I'd like to keep it intimate. Like 15,000 is intimate for a festival. Like Bonnaroo or some of these others are like 100,000 people. It's a lot of people. So keeping it single stage, that's something that's important to me. Keeping it in the country is important. And yeah, I think, those things will kind of stay constant, and we'll work around with lineups and branding every year.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
That first year you go out there, do you know how many porta potties to bring?
There's actually a formula.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know how much these people are going to drink. I mean, you got.
Yeah. It's
how much? Yeah, that would be that's what would stress me out. Do I have enough porta potties?
Yeah. There's a formula, but there's also like you have to kind of give on both sides, because like some artists, people don't drink as much, right? But if I'm doing Co-Wetzel, like, these people are drinking a lot. And so like you need more porta potties than your normal. It's 1 per 100.
Because you hear those horror stories of the overflowing porta potty.
That's the worst. Like if you want to be compared to Firefest, like #Firefest, your porta
the facilities are a huge deal.
Yes. Yep. And it can go bad quick. So just like, being
then
ready
you're
for those
stepping
things.
in it because it's like leaking all over the place.
That's right. I mean, the things to really like watch, that I've learned over the year: porta potties, water, food, all your needs.
Oh, you got to watch the Woodstock one on the water.
Yeah.
They're like gouging people like $10 for a bottle of water. These people are all just like dehydrating in the background. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's a scary one.
Like I mean, you get that.
Absolutely.
Festivals in the hundreds, probably.
Yeah. We were 100 degrees last year, and I remember having to bring some additional. So the big thing in festivals and most places now is just the refilling, right? So you have refillable water stations. People come in, bring their own bottles, and you can buy it too, but it's become expected to have refillable water stations. So just when it gets really hot like that, we reallocated stuff from camping area over to the festival grounds area. Just that's all. When you're at a show and it's 100, 105 degrees, you're just thinking about surviving. You're not trying to drink booze. You're just drinking water. And finding.
You would
shade.
be an idiot to be crushing beers when it's 105 degrees.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that was a nice thing last year. It's like no serious issues with that.
Boy,
with how hot it
alcohol
was.
that's where the problems usually start, though.
It really is. Yeah.
I'm finally grasping this. I'm almost 40. And it's like, think of all the stupid things you've done in your life. There's one common denominator.
Yep. It's it's fun, but yeah.
Well, when you get 15,000 people, though, like,
yeah,
that's you got a great thing, Sam.
Thanks.
I'm just really impressed, and we got to do this when we have more. We're going to do this again because we have some other common interests. We want to talk stocks.
Stocks. I mean, I'd love to talk about trading cards too.
Oh my God. Yeah, I just got back into that game.
Yeah, it's fun. So
well, when Brock Purdy, when he started his first game, I bought my first trading card in 15 years, probably more than that, because I was like, what if he's the next Brady?
Absolutely.
That's my guy. Like I can always say this. This is my claim to fame with Brock Purdy. I'll hang my hat on it. The day NIL became legal, we ran out our Brock Purdy T-shirt with him.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
sold the shit out of him too. Like people love Brock Purdy, man.
Oh
like,
yeah, absolutely.
Brock Purdy getting engaged was one of the most engaged social posts we've had in years.
Really?
Yeah, because Iowa State fans just love this guy.
Yeah.
How do you not?
That's the nice thing is like, our state is so supportive of their people.
Like the Caitlin Clark thing, right?
Absolutely.
My God.
I mean, she's beating, I was looking at the NIL ranking. I mean, she's up there pretty high. I figured she'd be higher, but yeah.
I think that she probably would be if.
Yeah.
I don't know what that formula was.
It might be guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's my big collection was I went all in on Talon Horton Tucker. I thought I could corner the market. So
attaboy. Did you ever get into the NFT cards?
I didn't. I mean, I got Top Shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won that too.
I got a few of those. It was kind of fun, but
man, I made a really good killing on it early.
Yeah.
And then I probably given it all back because I probably owned 60 of them, but they've lost they have no value now.
It crashed around the same time that like Bitcoin was, or like some of the not Bitcoin necessarily, but some of these other ones. And I think the speculative assets, like everything's being sucked out of them right now. So
hopefully they have a big comeback.
that'd be cool.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll save that for another show.
Yeah, maybe by next show.
Yeah, we'll save that for another show because I want to bring Sam in and we'll talk about all that stuff because we have so much. I think that's what you and I both do in our free time because I don't want to read about sports at night.
Yeah.
And you're not opening up Rolling Stone, it feels like.
That's right. Yeah. And there's no investment to read sports for me. It's like, it's fun.
Yeah.
Where I'm reading about concerts, I'm like, that could happen.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find the next Amazon.
Yeah. There you go. I think we're both trying to do that. So
that's the problem. If idiots like us would just put our money into a S&P 500 fund, we'd probably be a lot better.
That's right. Or Tesla.
Or Tesla. Yeah. Just keep pounding it into Tesla. Thank you for everything and supporting our venture. And hopefully we've sold a bunch of tickets for you. Yeah. And cheers to a awesome festival coming up here in the first weekend of August.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
I'm looking forward to it. This Zach Bryan, he's just nonstop in my truck these days. So you tell if you see him, you'd be like, the biggest hack media guy in Iowa has become obsessed with you.
That's awesome.
All because of Hinterland.
He was wearing an Iowa State wrestling shirt when I did a show for him in Council Bluffs, and he was actually wearing an ISU wrestling shirt.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's sick. All right, he is Sam Summers. Support all of his great ventures. I want to make sure I name them all.
Yep.
So you got Ernie's, we've got Woolies, we've got Up Down, now the Valor Ballroom. What else am I missing?
Hinterland,
obviously.
Yeah.
Awesome. You got a lot of good stuff going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
He's Sam Summers. He will be back on the CW pod, I promise. Awesome. Really smart guy. Appreciate him coming on. And two guys named Chris coming up on Thursday morning here on Iowa Everywhere.